And so there I was, minding my business, as I always do. You guys know. I was in the store and I had gone there because my plan was to get some of those delicious hot wings that they had. They were breaded, but they are like the best thing that I've had, like, yeah, by far. And so I walked in and I was just about to place my order when I took a breath. And that breath that I took allowed me a moment to think, to say, do I really need what I'm about to order? And actually, I didn't need what I was about to order because I went there specifically because there was a feeling that I was trying to get. There was a thought that was in my head. There was a feeling that I had that I wanted to get rid of. I wanted to buffer. I wanted to not feel. And this was my way of doing it. And tonight we're going to be talking about how do we use the pause as that key, that powerful interruption that helps us in our eating. Hey, if you're new to me, I'm Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new year, new you. I'm talking to adults with type 2 diabetes who want to put their diabetes in remission, who want to get off medication, improve their metabolic health, who want to reverse their diabetes. If you're new to me, go ahead and put new in the comments because I'd love to welcome you with a hand clap and some music. And let you know that I'm happy that you're here. If you've got comments, got questions, go ahead and put those in the chat because I'd love to welcome you and also to answer those as we move throughout the show. You know how we do what we do, and if you're new to us, you don't, but you'll soon find out. I've got over to my side here, I've got my meters, and I've also got my Dexcom Clarity Report, which you will see right down below. So we'll take a look to see what my blood sugars have been doing, and we will walk through that process together. Glad that you're here, whatever platform you are joining us from, whether it's Instagram or TikTok or, actually Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook or here on YouTube, of course, wherever you are, or Twitch. We're glad that you are in the space and that you are hanging out with us. And I do see some of our community members that are out there. Let me hop over and say hello to them. And I think I've got this all set up now so we can see those yeah, there you are. So we've got Steve that's saying hello, Pamela saying hello. Howdy, Steve. Howdy, Pam, Steve, and Doc. That's Jennifer. And then Pamela is saying hi, Jennifer. So glad that you guys are here. Whatever platform. Those of you who are out there on Instagram, thank you for coming through as well. And wherever you are. So this was an amazing weekend. So we'll share a little bit about that with you because that's where that's where some of this is coming from. All right, let's go ahead and do this. Let's hop over and let's take a look at blood sugars, and then we will get into our thought and our show for this episode. Let me pop some things off here, off of my phone, so that I can get to my apps. And so this was an amazing weekend. I was actually in Boston this past weekend, and a couple weekends ago I was in DC. I think I shared that with you all. And here is what you're seeing coming up. This is my Dexcom. This is my G7 showing my blood sugar of 105. Oh, sorry, 106. Actually, let me do this. Let me go over here first. This is my Libre 3 that's showing blood sugars of 86. And you'll see for most of the afternoon, we've been 150 or lower. Started out early this morning, right above 150, and then kind of came down, and right about 130 or so, we dropped below 100, and we've been kind of hanging out in that space for most of the afternoon. And let's hop over. This is my Dexcom Clarity. Let me change to 12 hours first. and we'll kind of go through and kind of the same thing as that we saw on the Libre, kind of hanging out in the upper 90s, low 80s, and then right before, yeah, so right after probably about 130, 140, we went below 100 and kind of stayed there for the rest of the afternoon. Prior to that, let me change this back to 24 hours. Prior to that, you'll see that we were up in the 140s, and then yesterday, last night, up to about 204, right about 204, and that was a bag of Doritos, I think that was there. Yeah, okay. All right, and then down here, you'll see a 52, and that was probably an error. Um, what time was that? That was about 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I was probably sleeping on it, and so it got a bad number. Okay. All right. So that's there, and let's hop over. Let's take a look at my monitors. As you know, I have a Keto Mojo, which gives me blood sugar and ketones, and then Contour gives me blood sugars. Let's go ahead and pop one of these in. This is the strip for the Contour, and then I have 2 strips here for the Keto Mojo. I'll start with the blood sugar, which is the brown one that you see. We'll get that in. And at the same time, I'm going to open up the blue one, which is my ketone, and that's just so I can have it available, because I don't want to have to stick myself twice. Go into our little container and grab my new favorite Lancet, and this is just a twist off, and so basically twist this part, and you'll see there you should see a needle. Oh, there you go. Okay, and just grab a finger, and let's see. Let's do this one. This is the one that I use most often, by the way. And ow, 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 ow. Okay. And let's see. Yep, we got a good drop of blood. Get that one started. Go ahead and get this one started, and we'll see what those. So 82 for the Keto Mojo, and then for the Contour 90, and then on the screen you'll see 106 for the 106 for the Dexcom, and then my Libre was 87. So that's Libre is kind of keeping with the others. The Dexcom is the odd man out, but it's not that far off. So now I get a strip in there for my ketones. Go ahead and get that going. And of course, as I always do, I'm going to not show you guys what that is. We'll come back to that here in just a little while. All right. So as we move through this space, just a couple of reminders. If you've not done so as yet, go back and make sure that you are looking at the monitors, not monitors, but looking at the shows that we've done so far in the space. We dealt with the COPE model, COPE, clarify, observe, pause, process, pick, and execute, right? We did that last week. And today we're spending some time doing a deeper dive on the pause, right? So and if you were here, you heard me say that the pause really is a component that underlies all the other components of the COPE model. So there is a specific pause, and we'll talk more about that, but within each of them, on the clarify, observe, of course, pause, and execute, there is a pause, because the pause is very important. So make sure that you get back and watch those. Those are on the show and on the channel, and I have created a playlist. Let's see. I've created a playlist that's called How to Deal with Emotional Eating, because that's what that is. Let's see if I can pull that up for you here really quickly, because that is really what we're dealing with, right? We're dealing with eating, and as you heard, okay, here it is. As you heard me, there we go. So this is the How to Deal with Emotional Eating. How to Deal with Emotional Eating, and in our title for today, you heard or you saw that I put not emotional eating, but non-hunger eating, because there are some other things that happen that are not necessarily emotional. They just happen to be um, things that will push us in that direction again as well. And those are the things that are given by the heat model. So make sure you get there. So this playlist has all the components of the heat model and the components of the cope model, because that's what we're dealing with in that space. And then, of course, to our conversation for tonight. Our conversation for tonight. We're talking about that pause, Pause. So, a friend of mine told me a story, an interesting story. He says, he deals with security. And so he has a group of people that work with him as part of his security team. And he says whenever, and I shouldn't say whenever, they did have an incident where someone showed up with a handgun that was drawn. And so everyone in the team, right, part of the team, they're trained, and their job is to protect the other people. And so the team that is part of the security system, they are taking cover, but they are trying to advance to the person that has the handgun. Everyone else, of course, is taking cover, which is as they should. And so the question that he had, and he was talking to his team, is that, well, what made you guys head in the direction of danger? And it was people who had been in law enforcement, people who had been in the military, people who had been in security before. But these are not people that are naturally like that. And so the question is, what causes the interruption of the instinct to run and hide and to duck to be super or subjugated to a thought that says, hey, I want to protect and serve? And so we're going to talk a little bit talk tonight about the pause process. And one of my favorite movies, and I've got a graphic in here somewhere coming up in a little while. One of my favorite movie is the movie Home. You remember the Boov? The Boov come and they take over the planet, and they take everyone and they kind of dish them off, and they've taken over. And there are these other aliens that are actually chasing after the Boov. And whenever they find them, the Boov run. They run away because that's what they do. They're not interested in being part of. They're not interested in being brave, so they run away. But there's this Boov called O, and O meets an Earth girl, and in the process of meeting her, he learns more about her, and one of the alien ships crash. And normally they would run in the opposite direction, right? But anyway, so they go and they get this device, and so now he has this device and so when the aliens find them, all the other Boov are running in the other direction, and because he has this thing, he runs towards the alien, and of course he saves the ship. Or I've told the story before about the movie Wanted with Angelina Jolie and Morgan Freeman. And so there's this character, and he has these anxiety attacks. And the anxiety attacks are so powerful that he takes medication for it. But in the course of the movie, what we learn is that this anxiety that he's feeling, or what he thought was anxiety, was really kind of his body getting him ready for the task that he needed. And he actually had some pretty incredible abilities. And the body was preparing him for that. And so let's talk about pause. Let's talk about pausing. So the power of pause to interrupt non-hunger eating. And I suppose a big part of the conversation would have to be why are we interested in the pause? What is so important about the pause? And it is simply that when we think about the totality of managing diabetes, of reversing diabetes, of improving metabolic health, at the pinnacle of the things we talk about, we have to talk about how food affects the body. We can't have a conversation in this space without talking about food. And food becomes an issue because it is the place where we find that we often will have trouble. And we have trouble with food because it is it gives us a dopamine hit. It gives us a dopamine burst. And it becomes, as someone said in the office today, it becomes a friend. It becomes our companion. It becomes the thing, the person that we go to, the place that we go to when we run into those situations where we can't go anywhere else. When you're at home by yourself and you can't pick up the phone or call someone, or you're depressed and you don't want to talk to someone, when you are angry and you are unable to control the anger to let it out and talk to anyone else and share that with anyone else, food is there, and it is a quiet companion that for that moment takes away the edge. It calms us down. It listens without judgment. It provides for us a space where we can vent, where we can be angry, where we can be frustrated and not have our reputations damaged. Food does that for us. And so in the space of food, where does it fit in our plan for reversing diabetes, and how do we go about managing, right? So the power of pause to interrupt non-hunger eating. Not hunger eating. And so, why we eat when we're not hungry? And you guys, if you've been around, you know our HEAT model: habits, emotions, access, and taste. And this is just a different way of saying that. So emotional triggers. So whether it's stress or boredom or loneliness, right? Boredom, loneliness. Environmental cues. So availability. So that's access. Instant gratification. We're seeking comfort, right? That's the taste. That's the thing that it does for us, right? That's all given by the HEAT model. So we eat because of that. We eat when we're not hungry because of that. As I gave that scenario at the top of the show, I usually go a different way home. So I leave the office and I go down the road, get on the highway, and I head this way. Today, I deliberately, intentionally, in my brain, went the other direction to go to that store so that I can get those wings. Because I was just tasting them, y'all. It just, oh, yeah. Right? So why do we eat when we're not hungry? We eat because of the HEAT model. Yep, there it is. And so why the pause is your secret key is because the pause creates a moment of awareness. The pause allows for an interruption. It allows you to shift from an automatic reaction to a conscious choice. Otherwise, we get into that rut, and as soon as something happens, here comes the food. So the pause is that foundational process that allows us to interrupt the automaticity of the reaction or from the trigger that we have. So it gives the brain time to connect your intentions with your actions. One of the questions that I ask myself now, and this comes from my wife, she said, what will my future self say to my current self if I observe what I'm doing right now? Because my intentions are to manage blood sugar. My intentions are to improve my weight. My intentions are to improve my metabolism. My intentions are to lower my blood sugar, my cholesterol. My intention is to get my A1C down. But the action that I'm doing right now does not follow what my intention is. Because if I keep this action up, then that's not what I'm getting. This current behavior does not get me what I want in the future. So the pause allows the brain to connect my actions and my intention. It says, okay, these two things are aligned. What I'm doing now is consistent with what I say I want. Pausing is the step that allows us to go beyond coping, right? Beyond coping, to actually transforming how we interact with our emotions and how we interact with food. It is the pause that gives us the ability. Because if it weren't for the pause, we could not enact any of the other cope procedures. If it weren't for the pause, we could not even think about becoming emotionally intelligent or mindful in that moment. It is the pause that gives us the power to do that. And so within each component of the COPE model, clarify, observe, pause, of course, and execute, there is a pause that allows us to connect what we want in the future with what we're doing right now, our intention and our actions. So what's the science behind the pause? The science behind the pause. As you know, the amygdala is that part of the brain, the basal part of the brain, that's responsible for fight or flight. It says that, hey, I see danger and I'm moving. I see danger and I've got to get out of here. I see a tiger, I've got to run. I am being frustrated, I'm angry, and I've got to eat to soothe. I want to get out of that feeling, that pain, emotional pain that I'm feeling right now. So the amygdala is the part that does that. But the prefrontal cortex is responsible for decision making and for self-control. It is the thought part of the brain. And pausing allows the thought, the prefrontal cortex, to connect with the amygdala, allowing for thoughtful action. Otherwise, it's an automatic process. You get angry and you eat. You get frustrated and you eat. I get tired, I get bored, and I cook so that I can eat. Right? So it's automatic. But the pausing, being able to pause, being able to interrupt it, gives us the space between the two so that we can make a decision. Okay, now what am I going to do? So pausing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, or our rest and digest mode. This is that part of the body, part of the system, the nervous system that calms, reduces our cortisol level. It calms us. It gets rid of, or it helps to modulate the fight or flight process. That's what pause does. So why is pausing essential in the COPE model? As I said before, each step within the COPE model is not complete without a pause. It's not a single step. It is the foundation under which each component of COPE works. It is the functional part of the COPE model. It is the part of the COPE model that allows the COPE model to work. The power of intention. I can't stress enough that pausing is about creating intentional space. So when I walked into that restaurant today, and I was standing there, and I stepped up to the counter, I paused. Well, I've been trying to pause the whole time I was on my way, but I paused. But I made it all the way there, and I'm now standing there, getting ready to give my order, and the pause. And the pause lets us interrupt habitual cycles and allows us to ask, is this what I need right now? Is this the best thing for me in this moment. And once I was able, now here's the thing. Let me hasten to say this. There are going to be times, even right now, not even, as you are working, as you're learning, that the pause is not going to interrupt what you're doing. Because those emotions have become so strong. Because the amygdala is still doing what it does. And you know this. There are times that you're sitting there eating the ice cream. You're sitting there chomping on the third cookie. You're sitting there gobbling down the pasta. And you're thinking to yourself the entire time, I'm really not hungry. What am I doing eating? I know that I'm upset. I know that I'm angry. But because those emotions are so intertwined in or so intense, and we are trying to relieve those, that we're there sitting with a bowl of ice cream. We went to the, what was it called, the Boston Tea Party Museum. And so we went through the whole thing, And at the end, so I'm not hungry, by the way. And at the end, they have a little restaurant. And in the restaurant, they have little treats, cookies, candies. They've got scones. They've got muffins. They've got whatever. And I come out, and I'm excited because I just came through this thing. Right? And it was good to listen and hear and see and participate. And, you know, we play acted, and my son and my wife got to throw the tea over the side of the ship. And so I get out there, and we're getting ready to go. And my brain says, hey, we're here. Get a scone. I'm not hungry. And I didn't pause. As a matter of fact, did I pause? Well, I grabbed it really quickly, paid for it, and put it in my mouth before the pause came. Okay. So here's a great place to talk about neuroplasticity. So neuroplasticity is this idea that the brain can be retrained. And so every time we pause, instead of reacting impulsively, we strengthen neural pathways associated with self-regulation and choice. So every time we're successfully able to pause, every time we're successfully able to interrupt, every time we are successfully able to just take a moment, then we're strengthening the connection between our intention and our action. This is neuroplasticity in action. Over time, we train the brain to choose pause over impulsive reaction. It makes it easier each time we do it. Each time we repeat it, it's easier. Each time we do it, it gets better. Each time we do it, it gets faster. Because the neuroplasticity, those nerves, they develop what are called new myelin sheets. Those are coverings that are over the nerves, and it makes the connection faster. So the next time this happens, we don't take as long to get to the pause. Neuroplasticity. Yep. Okay? So we talked last week a little bit about friction. And so the question is, why do we not automatically do it? Why is it so hard to pause? And it's hard to pause because there are mental barriers that make it difficult for us to take that action, even when we know about it intellectually. There are emotional things that come up. There's resistance in how we feel. I'll tell you today, in the store, as I was I got to the counter, and I'm giving the order, or getting ready to give the order, and I paused, and I stopped, and I'm walking out of the store, and in my brain, in my mind, I'm being told, right, that's that guy over here, I'm being told, you know what? You did a good job of not ordering it. You should reward yourself anyway. Or here's the other thought that came. The thing that you're feeling, you're still feeling it. The emotion that you still have is still there. Now we got to go figure something else out to do. right? So notice what's happening. The brain is still trying to convince me, even though there's that pause, it's still trying to convince me to go ahead and have the chicken. Now, I'm going to say, and once again, I want you to get me wrong, there is nothing wrong with the chicken. There was nothing wrong with it. As a matter of fact, it's very good. But I didn't need it. And the reason I was getting it was because it was buffering behavior. It was emotional eating. Emotional eating. And so here's what I was talking about just a little while ago. The movies, right? So conditioning and cognitive override. Conditioning and cognitive override. So how do we get to the point where we override the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex kicks in? How do we get to the point where that becomes the thing that we do? And that is with conditioning and cognitive override. Conditioning and cognitive override. Conditioning says that if we do it over and over and over and over, if we practice it, then it becomes a part of what we do. Cognitive override says that in the process of the conditioning, what we're doing is we're allowing the cognition, the prefrontal cortex, to take over, to do what we want it to do, to direct our behavior so that our actions align with our intentions. Conditioning and cognitive override. And so in order for this to work, we've got to build the pause muscles, and we build it with practice. We build it with practice. Now, here's an interesting conversation. I've talked to people before, and people say to me some interesting things. They say, well, this feels artificial. This feels not real. This feels like I am restricting myself. I hear that conversation. And so today I actually was talking to someone in the office, and I asked, and I'll ask you this. What's your favorite room in your house? Favorite room in your apartment? What's your favorite outfit? Yeah. And I want you to think about that. Maybe it's your den. Maybe it's your man cave. Maybe it's the family room. And you've set it up just so. One of my favorite rooms actually is this room, right? So I've got all my stuff in here. I've got my monitors. I've got my cameras. I've got my lights. I've even got some clothes over there, so that if I'm on camera and I need to make a change, I can grab something, put it on, right? Sometimes I do back-to-back events, and so I don't want to run over there, right? So this space, not totally the way I want it, but it's pretty comfortable. So I've created this space for myself. And now I could reach over and I can grab things wherever they are because I have created the space for myself. In my car, I have things a certain place. And it sometimes amazes me that we create these spaces that are us. We have an outfit that people know, this is how I dress. This is what he looks like. This is what I like. But we don't create spaces for success when it comes to eating. We don't create behaviors that allow us to be successful. And so in order for us to make this an automatic process, in order for us to make this more doable, we have to practice. We have to build those pause muscles. And it happens with practice. And so how do we do it? Well, you've got to practice it. You practice pausing in low stake moments to build to when you need it during the difficult times. You can't wait until it's happening for you to use it. You got to be practicing it before. That's why people practice, teams practice, basketball, baseball, football, whatever it is. People who ride horses, they practice. People who give public speeches, they practice. People who are playing piano or any instrument, they practice because they get better with practice. So we build the muscles by practicing. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of that. So one of the things that we can do is we can set daily intentional pauses throughout the day because we want to pause. And so how do we pause? How do we learn how to pause? We practice pausing. We put some pauses throughout the day when it's not high stress so that we can practice it. And we're treating the pauses as a skill, not a rule. It's not a you have to pause to be able to do that. No, it's a skill that I'm developing. When I first started speaking, it was not natural. I had to practice it. When I became a physician, it was not natural. I had to practice it. When I did my residency in pediatrics and internal medicine, it was not natural. I had to practice it. When I became an endocrinologist, they didn't just say, hey, go and do it. No, I had to go to fellowship training to practice it. So if we're going to be successful, we have to practice. We treat it as a skill. It is a skill that I can develop. Just like I can learn to play the piano, just like I can learn to play the bass, just like I can learn to shoot a basketball, just like I can learn how to save money or invest money. It is a skill that I can practice and get better at. We got to build that muscle. And so let's go through it. So when we talk about pausing, let's talk a little first about the intentional pause. So intentional pause, and let me go back, and this is how it works. You're going to get your phone, and you're going to set 3 alarms through the day. 1, 2, 3. And the alarm simply is going to say pause. 1, 2, 3. You got it? Pause. And when the pause happens, when the alarm goes off, you're going to take a breath. You're going to assess your physical and emotional state. We'll give you some questions here in a minute. But there are times when you're going to be in a meeting. You're going to be busy. You're not going to hear it. Your phone's going to be somewhere else. There are going to be times when you're going to hear it and you won't respond. All of that will happen. That is a part of the process. But you're going to set those alarms. And let's see. I'm going to. There we are. Very good. I've got some things here on my calendar. Okay, so I'm going to create a new calendar. How can I do that? I think I can do it from here. Okay, I'll just do it. Okay, let's see. Let's show my phone. I think that'll work. Okay, so here's my phone. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an event. And I'm going to put it on my calendar. Let's see, let's do this one. Okay. Put it in my calendar. I'm going to call it a pause. Okay. And I'm going to set it. It's not an all-day event. And let's put it. I'll put one at 9 o'clock in the morning. and I just want it to. I don't need it to be a long one, right? So I'm just going to set it, say 5 minutes, 9 o'clock in the morning to 9:05, and I'll say save. Oh no, that's not what I intended. So let me get out of that one, because now you saw all my stuff. um. Okay, I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to create a different calendar so I could do that with you here. But basically, you saw what I did was I created an event and I put it on my calendar, 9 a.m. And what I was going to do with that is I was going to have it repeat every day at 9 a.m. And then, of course, I set one at 9 a.m., 12 noon, and then 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So when the alarm goes off, right, it prompts me. And so here's what we're going to do when the alarm goes off. When the alarm goes off, I'm going to first of all take a deep breath because it's telling me to pause, right? So I know that now, right? It's going to go off. The first couple of days, maybe the first week, several times it's going to go off. You're not going to remember what it is. You're not going to remember what it is. But when you do remember, you're going to say, okay, yeah, that's what that is. And here's the question, or here are the questions. One, what am I feeling right now? Now notice, in this space right now, when this is happening, when the alarm goes off, we're not expecting that you're in the middle of anything. Now, I'll tell you, for me, I was in the process of doing a pause exercise when something happened that triggered me. Yeah. So that was an interesting one, right? So I was my alarm had gone off. My alarm had gone off, and I'm doing the breathing. Breathe. And what am I feeling right now when the trigger happened? And it was a conversation. Unexpected, by the way. All right. And so I'm in the middle of this pause, and I have to say that I ended up. It turned out well. Actually, I was surprised at how it went. I was surprised at how well it went. But here are the questions. What am I feeling right now? Where do I feel tension in my body? And what am I thinking about? So remember, this is during non-stressful, this is practicing. And you may be in the middle of a stressful thing when it goes off. That's okay. So it's not intended to just be, because when it goes off, it goes off. Wherever you are is where you are. Okay? So what am I feeling? What am I doing? How am I, right? So you kind of go through that process. So we're doing intentional pauses. And then we check in with our hunger and our emotions, right? So use that pause when that happens to specifically think about food. Think about hunger. Think about your emotional state. Because those are the things that are going to come. Right? And say, okay, how am I feeling right now? Am I hungry? And give it a rating. Give it a rating. 1 to 10. 1 being that I am not hungry. And 10 being, yeah, okay, I am like starving. And if it's a low number, then you're probably not hungry. There's probably something else going on. Right? So you want to identify whatever emotion is happening during that period. All right. So if you are out there, if you've been able to, in the middle of a stressful event in the past, right, pause and go in a different direction, I want you to put yes in the chat. Okay, put yes in the chat. If you've been able to do that in the past, put yes in the chat. All right. So check in with your hunger. So, right. So the alarm goes off. I take a breath. I ask myself, what am I feeling right now? What am I thinking about? Am I hungry? I'm rating it, right, 1 to 10, whether I'm hungry or not hungry. And then it's part of the whole process. Reinforcing, right, is very good. So having around you, having a journal, having a way of documenting. I use my phone. Excuse me. I use my phone. So I dictate and then I transcribe it. I put it off, and there's a whole thing I go through. But I have something always where I can now go back and jot down any insights that I've had during that process. Because what we're doing is we're learning, we're reinforcing healthy choices and healthy mindful behavior. And anytime I could learn something, I could document, then that helps me reinforce. And then carry some affirmations. Affirmations are those strong statements like, I choose mindful action that aligns with my goals. Right? So I choose mindful actions that align with my goals. This can help to recenter you in the process. Also, you can do a physical reset. Sometimes simply getting up and moving, move a muscle, change a thought. That is the thing that's said, right? You move a muscle, you change a thought. Sometimes physical movement refreshes your mind. Use the pause to stretch, stand up, take a break. It's kind of like when a speaker gets up and they say, "Okay, we've been sitting for a while. Everybody stand up and do some stretching." Right? In fact, when I did that just now, it felt so good because my shoulders were a little tense. That feels so good. Woo. Right? So this can help to release tension and bring clarity to your next action. Move a muscle, change a thought. And then reflect and adjust. At the end of the day, right, you have these pauses that you've gone through. You've done 3 of them. You go through the pauses. You've done your thing. You go, okay, what am I feeling? What am I doing? Now, the more you do it, every time you do it, when something happens, the pause becomes a more natural process for you. Did you notice patterns in your emotions or behavior? Are there things that you're seeing that you didn't realize before? And then use that emotion to adjust your environment or your mindset to support the goals that you have, right? Support the goals you have. And let's hop over, and I think I see so answers to some of the questions that we're asking. So, hey, doctor and everybody. Hi, Teresa. Hi, Teresa. Hi, Pamela. So Jennifer says yes, she has been able to in the past to basically short circuit that automatic amygdala thing. Pamela says she has. Jennifer saying hi, Teresa. Right. So it is a learned skill, and the more you do it, the better you get at it. The more you do it, the more it becomes a normal process. The more you do it, the more it becomes automatic. Right? So the pause, so these pauses that you're doing, especially if you practice them, if you do them consistently, can gradually rewrite the brain to recognize and respond to emotional cues with calm and intentionality rather than impulsivity. So what are some strategies? What are some strategies to strengthen the pause? One, grounding exercises. Right? So I do this a lot. So when I'm driving, if there's something going on in my mind, I will listen to sounds, cars, birds, the hum of the car as it goes across the road, right? So all those things, right, I'm listening, so I'm grounding myself to something physical. I'm feeling the texture of the steering wheel. And I've mentioned to you when I'm in the shower, right, I imagine the drops and I try to count the drops as they're hitting me. All right, deep breathing, slow, deep breath. That stimulates or activates the parasympathetic system. Remember, that's the system that causes calmness. Counting backwards. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 gives your brain the ability to reset. And then develop some coping statements. I am in control. Pause and decide is another statement. So you're basically feeding your brain words that it can use to grab onto, so the prefrontal cortex is now doing the thing it needs to do to override the amygdala. And then, of course, regular mindful practices, just like practicing the pause, are things that we can do because when we're mindful, when we're in connection, when we're intentionally looking at, feeling, existing in our space, then that practiced routine can come into those times when we're having difficulties because it's not something new. Our body's used to doing that. Right? So practice routine mindfulness. And then create environmental spaces that support pausing. Designate a pause-friendly space. Right? Find a chair, find a space, find a room, someplace where when you are pausing, you go there. And so you move to that space so that even when you are in the middle of a trigger, if you go to that space, your body's going to respond because that's the space where you go to pause. And then remove temptations, right? Create a space that is not tempting. Declutter your pantry and your kitchen from high trigger foods. Yep. All the candies and the cookies. Now, here's the thing, and I've got people saying this to me, so let's address it. All right. So some of us say that the things we're doing are for the people that come around. So I have grandparents that say, oh, when the grandkids come over, they want to eat cookies. Or like me in my office, I have chips. And I say, oh, when my son comes to the office, I got chips. Well, the question is, how often do the people who come over eat the stuff that we buy? Not as often as the amount of stuff that we buy. Am I right? Yeah. So I get it. I've got the chips. As a matter of fact, I got some chips today that I put in my office. But when urges strike, right? Because remember, the amygdala works within seconds. So when that trigger happens, if there's something readily available, we grab it before the pause has an ability to take effect. So we grab it and we start eating it, and then like, oh, I pause. Well, guess what? Because it was right within arm's reach, that snack, then it didn't give the pause a period of time to connect to the amygdala. And so, well, you ate it. It's already done. And like, well, that doesn't work. Well, it didn't work because it's right there. Like if you got candy in your pocket, guess what? Yeah, that's going to be a difficult pause. And then another space where we can practice pausing is before we eat. Practice pre-eating pauses. Now, notice I didn't say pre-meal, pre-eating. This is a meal. This is a snack. This is something you're drinking. Practice pausing before. Before you eat, take a breath and mentally check in. Even if it's a regular meal, even if it's a time when you're supposed to be eating, take a pause because there's no stress during that time. There's no anxiety during that time. You're getting ready to eat. And pause and say to yourself, what am I feeling? Am I hungry? I know it's hunger time. I mean, I know it's meal time, but am I hungry? And am I eating because I'm hungry or because I'm feeling something else? And if you're not hungry, acknowledge whatever the emotion is and decide if you want to eat or if another activity might satisfy the underlying feeling. Because what we're doing is we are practicing. Practice. We want to set this up so that it is a cascade. So it is a cascade. There are several tools that are available, and let me see, do I have that? There is a one of our episodes that we will do is on the tools. Some of these tools, like the mindfulness, the breathing. I think I call it strategies. There it is. Yeah. So we'll come back and we'll do. But I just want to show this to you. Let's see which one of these. Ba, 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 ba. Here we go. So strategies and tools to help effectively execute the pause and effectively execute what we need to do, right? So practical strategies and tools to help effectively execute. So implementation intentions, behavior substitution, micro commitments, habit stacking, environmental cues, 5-minute rule, accountability partners, pre-execution visualization, reflection and self-reinforcement, reward positive behavior. So there's all these tools that we have access to, all these things. But you know what? They take practice. Just like using a screwdriver or using a hammer or using a saw, you don't just automatically know how to use it. It takes practice. Have you ever seen some people use like I'm not talking about just like a regular saw, right? It's like, that's not how you hold that. It takes practice. And so in the space of managing our food, which is a huge component, right? A huge component of what we do, huge component of our management of our diabetes, we've got to be able to be mindful, and it takes a pause to kind of get us in that space so that we can be intentional about what we do. Right, so you hear me start talking about balanced bites. Balanced bites. And I guess that's another one I could share with you. Where is it? So balanced bites. Fuel your body with balanced bites. Every bite counts. Every bite counts. Okay? Balanced bites. Fuel your body with balanced bites. This is a direct outgrowth of our New Year, New You. So as you are hearing the things that we're talking about, you will see that we are being intentional about providing tools, right, that we can use, right? The HEAT model, the COPE model, this idea of balanced bites, right? We'll kind of expound on that, so you'll see what that is. And you've heard it before, but we're going to go more in depth with it, because that is where we often find ourselves in difficulty. All of the medications that we're using, the SGLT2s, the GLP-1s, you know what they do? They suppress appetite. That's their job. Now, there's some other things that they're talking about in terms of heart protection and so forth, but their function is to suppress appetite. That's what they do. And they help us navigate this space. And they help us navigate the food space. They're not helping us navigate your fatigue, or helping us navigate your frustration, or help navigate the boredom. That's not what they do. They're helping you suppress appetite. And if we have a mechanism where we can begin helping them, or for those of you who can't get a GLP-1, or you're having side effects from a GLP-1, or your insurance doesn't cover a GLP-1, guess what? You still need to be able to manage food. And the pause allows us to interrupt the automaticity between the trigger and the amygdala taking over and just doing whatever it wants. Love it, love it, love it, love it. All right. So let's go ahead and let's take a look and see what my ketones were. Let me see. Let me get out of this thing here. What do you think my ketones are? Can anybody put a guess? All right. Ketones. And let me hop over and grab my Keto Mojo app. We'll get Let's grab this one. Turn that on, and then go ahead and do a sync. And drum roll, drum roll, drum roll, drum roll. I keep saying I've got to put drum roll on my machine here, so I'm going to do that. Note to self, please put drum roll. All right. So blood sugar was 82, and my ketones are 0.2. Remember, ketones less than 0.5 considered normal, 0.5 to 1.5 considered nutritional ketosis, and above 1.5 considered therapeutic ketosis. All right, so that's where we are. Let me do this really quickly because I said that we were adding back our thought of the day. Let's go ahead and do that right now, and then we'll move on. So here's our thought of the day coming right up. All right, and our thought of the day is this: pause before you act. Pausing before you act will connect your actions with your intentions. Pausing before you act will connect your actions with your intentions. Often, the things that we do don't align with the things we say we want. So that we eat ice cream all day, but we say we want to lose weight. We stay up all night watching a movie or binging on a series, but we say we want to get better rest. We want to create a better relationship with our families, but we pack our schedule with things that don't support that. So our intentions, what we wanted to have, don't align with our behavior and our actions. And so when we pause in this space, for example, when we pause, it allows us to have our thought process of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, to come over the amygdala, which is that basal part of the brain that's responsible for our survival. It allows it to regulate it and convince us that there are things that we're doing that don't align well with our intentions. And so we now can change our behavior. We can change our actions so that they are closely aligned with each other. And when we are able to do that, when our actions align with our behavior, then we set ourselves up for success. We move in the direction of getting what we want and the direction of setting ourselves up to be healthy, to be whole, to reverse our diabetes, for those of you who are doing that, for improving our metabolic health, for lowering our blood pressure and improving our weight. All those things, all those behaviors, all those eventualities are a direct result of behavior. And so learning to pause, learning to interrupt, learning to put a circuit breaker, if you will, between the trigger and the things that we grab automatically will help us to better align our intentions and our actions so that they are consistent, and so we get the benefit of what we say we want, because that is what we're doing and our actions are supporting that. And that is our thought for today. All right. Well, I am always glad when I am able to hang out with this group in this space. So thank you for coming through. And I see Steve is saying, let me put that up. Steve is saying he thought my ketones were going to be 0.6. Where is it? Right here. Oh, so 0.5. So Steve said 0.5. Everyone's saying hello. Jennifer's saying hello. Teresa's saying hello. Pamela's saying hello. And Jennifer said, other commitments. Have a great evening at all. Okay, yeah, Jennifer, thank you for hanging out with us. For those of you who are out there, remember that we have our community meetup that's coming up on Thursday, the 31st. And if you've not already done so, let me go ahead and put that in the chat. And several of you that I see have already signed up, so thank you for doing that. Let's see, I think that's this one. All right, so that is the link for you to sign up, and make sure you do that. That's this Thursday. We're going to be sharing some of our results from our blood work, from the visit that we had with my physician, and then you'll see coming through also some of the playlists that we have that help you organize some of the things that we have, our how to reverse diabetes and how to fast successfully. Later this week, we'll have our fasting check-ins. We'll have our community meetup, 7 o'clock on Thursday. Of course, on Saturday, we have videos from the vault. And Sunday morning at 6 o'clock Central, we'll have This Week in Review, right, where we review the things that we've done this week. As always, I'm glad that you are here. Glad that I got a chance to spend some time with you. This is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new you. Good night, everybody. We'll see you at our next show.